Hello, welcome to History Tea, a channel where I spill the tea on history. Today's video will be about the history of St. Patrick's Day, the one day a year the Irish can get drunk in public without being called an alcoholic. St. Patrick was a Christian missionary. We only know a small amount about him, and most of it comes from his sort of autobiography, the Confessio. He was born in Roman Britain, most likely Scotland, in the 5th century before being kidnapped by Irish pirates at age 16. He was taken to Ireland where he was a slave working as a herder. Patrick recalled living in Ireland for 6 years before he supposedly heard a voice in his head telling him about a ship that would take him home. He made his escape and returned home where he started working as a cleric. His family was happy to have him back until he was punished for a crime that he supposedly had already stood trial for, but he didn't say what the crime was, so... Eventually, he returned to Ireland, which doesn't make any sense to me because I feel like if you were a slave and you escaped, the last place you would want to go to is the place where you were a slave. But, Apparently, he heard the voice of Irishmen in his head begging for him to return to Ireland. In Ireland, he became a bishop and eventually converted thousands of pagan Irish to Christianity and became known as one of the patron saints of Ireland and the man responsible for chasing the snakes out of Ireland. And by the way, if you don't know already, there were no snakes in Ireland. Snakes refers to the pagan Irish. No one can say for sure when St. Patrick died because it was either the 5th or 6th century and they didn't really keep records back then, or at least not good ones. Or we just haven't found them. There's always that too. But it's widely believed that he died on March 17th, sometime in either the late 5th century or early 6th century. We don't know when he was born, or therefore how old he was when he died, or even how he died. But we do suspect that he is buried in Down Cathedral in Downpatrick, Ireland. So if you ever want to check in on him, you know where he is. It was discovered in 2017 that the first recorded St. Patrick's Day celebration in the world was surprisingly in St. Augustine, Florida, in 1600, and the first parade was in the same place in 1601. The celebrations were organized by the Irish vicar Ricardo Arthur, or Richard Arthur. This blows my mind because this was while St. Augustine was still occupied by the Spanish, but also, Florida? A little odd. But I actually live like an hour away from St. Augustine, and it's beautiful and I love it. And if you love history or even just ghosts, I definitely recommend putting a visit on your bucket list. The reason we celebrate St. Patrick's Day has changed, for most anyway. It used to be an observance centered on religion and celebration of the saint that brought Christianity to Ireland, but over time it became more about a celebration of heritage and having pride in being Irish. Today, St. Patrick's Day is mostly about getting drunk in America, although the getting drunk is usually done while celebrating being Irish, so I guess there's that. But I do believe that there are plenty of us that genuinely are proud to be Irish and use St. Patrick's Day to recognize that pride within us. Also, I don't drink, so... You may wonder about the significance of the shamrock. First of all, the shamrock is the national flower of Ireland, but it also goes back to St. Patrick. It's said that he used the shamrock to teach the Druids about the Holy Trinity. And St. Patrick is usually depicted holding a sprig of shamrocks in one hand. There are two different presenting of the shamrock ceremonies, one in America and the other in England. In America, the Irish Prime Minister presents the President with a crystal bowl full of shamrocks. The tradition started in 1952. And in England, the British royal family, usually a female of the family, most recently the Duchess of Cambridge, presents the Irish Guards, a regiment in the British Army, with bowls of shamrocks. This tradition was started in 1901 by Queen Alexandra. The association of the color green with St. Patrick's Day goes back into mythology. We didn't start to see the association until the 11th century when a mythology book called the Labor Gabala Aran, or the Book of the Taking of Ireland, told the story of Gaedel Glass, the eponymous ancestor of the Gaels and the creator of the Gaelic languages. Now, real quick, I'm assuming I'm saying this correctly. I'm not sure. I think it's Gaedel Glass. But if not, sorry. Gaedel Glass was bitten by a snake and saved from death when Moses used his staff on a snake bite. He was to retain a green mark as a reminder of the incident and lead his people to a land free of snakes. His name, Glass, means green in Irish, and Gaedel means Gaelic. Then, in the 1640s, the Irish Catholic Confederation introduced their
Green Harp flag.
The Green Harp flag was also used as the unofficial flag of Ireland in the 18th and 19th centuries. Green hasn't always been associated with St. Patrick, though. In 1783, the Order of St. Patrick, an Anglo-Irish chivalric order, claimed blue as its color, making people associate blue with St. Patrick. Then, in the 1790s, green became associated with Irish nationalism when a Republican organization called the United Irishmen started using the color. Going into the late 19th century and early 20th century, we saw a re-emergence of Irish heritage, the Irish language, Irish mythology, and the color green. Green was showcased in many of the flags from the 1916 Easter Rising,
like the Starry Plough flag, the Irish Republic flag, and even the current flag of Ireland, the tricolour flag.
In America, when you think of St. Patrick's Day, you usually think of beer and parades and wearing the color green. It's a time when you see those dumb Kiss Me I'm Irish shirts in every store, sometimes even stores that don't normally sell clothes. It's an American St. Patrick's Day tradition to wear green on the day, and if you're caught not wearing green, people are allowed to pinch you. Really, no one follows through with that except for elementary and middle school age kids, who of course pinch the hardest. I find this tradition really interesting, not just because pinching doesn't make any sense in any way, but also because it involves everyone, not just Irish Americans. I think in America, St. Patrick's Day has become sort of for everyone, and of course there are pros and cons to that, like there is with everything in this world. A lot of people argue that St. Patrick's Day is just strayed from its religious roots, which is true in most cases. Some people also say that it's become a multicultural celebration, which I don't personally see. I see how even people who aren't Irish at all celebrate, but not how non-Irish people try to bring their cultures into it. But I mean, if someone who's not Irish wants to celebrate us and our culture or whatever, then the more the merrier. The number one way we celebrate St. Patrick's Day in America, besides drinking and wearing green, is with parades. Typically, Irish folk music and river dances involved, as well as an abundance of green beads, which are truthfully probably just left over from Mardi Gras. Some people eat corned beef and cabbage, while in the Northeast it's a tradition to plant peas on the day to bring good luck during the harvest. But of course, we cannot forget our incessant need to dye everything we possibly can green. Chicago dyes their river, Indianapolis dyes their main canal, Savannah dyes their fountains, Jamestown, New York dyes their rivers, Columbia, South Carolina dyes their fountains, Missouri paints 12 city blocks, and Seattle paints the traffic stripes that run through their parade route. We also have green beer. As if beer isn't already bad enough for you, why not add a bunch of dyes, unnatural dyes, to make it even worse? St. Patrick's Day is celebrated all over the world. There are many parades in Britain, the largest one being in Birmingham. Scotland has a parade, and Canada has multiple parades, their Montreal parade being one of the longest running parades in North America. Malta, Russia, Switzerland, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, and Argentina all celebrate the day with parades as well. There's even Irish Pride up in space. In 2011, Irish-American astronaut Catherine Coleman played a 100-year-old flute and a tin whistle, both belonging to the members of the Chieftains, an Irish music group, in the International Space Station in celebration of St. Patrick's Day. And in 2013, astronaut Chris Hadfield celebrated the day by taking pictures of Ireland from Earth's orbit, wore green, and recorded himself singing Danny Boy in space. From what I've heard about St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, I don't think it's as big of a deal there. They do have a few big parades, but I think for the most part they'll just play some music and drink some beer. To wrap this video up, I'm gonna hit you with some facts real quick. In 1991, the US Congress made March Irish American Heritage Month. And the week of St. Patrick's Day in Ireland is Irish Language Week, or Seachtain na Gaeilge, which I think I'm saying that right, but I don't know. Now, before I finish, I just want to say that I'm not the biggest fan of St. Patrick, kind of because he came up into Ireland and was like, either believe what I believe or get out of your own home, which that's not how it works, sir. But I do like what it represents today, which for me is a pride in being Irish. Agus sin ante star. I probably said that wrong, but no one verbally translates English to Irish. Someone at Google, please help. I tried to say, and that's the tea on history. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something new. Like that thumbs up thing. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell notification to get notified when I upload new videos. This video is the best. I do have a few things linked below that go along with things I talked about in this video, so be sure to check those out. And I did make a Twitter and Instagram account for this channel, so I'll link those as well. And you can follow it and like see my creation process, which is just a lot of nerdy research, so it's kind of boring. But you can do it anyway and learn some facts along the way, maybe. I don't know. Oh, thank you. Say hi. Hi, YouTube.